my name is Brian Hussey. I'm a software engineer in a little sliver of IBM that we call Talent Management Solutions, where we make excuse me, where we make software for recruitment, assessment, education, and retention of people. So a little bit of history to begin with. 2006, a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed engineer comes out of college and joins IBM. At the same time, a company called Brassring is acquired by a company called Connexa. Rock on 6 years, Brian joins software group in IBM, and IBM acquires Connexa. And then IBM Connexa acquires Brian, we rebrand to Talent Management Solutions, or I acquired Connexa, either way. But I suppose, why am I telling you this? Even now, so it's 11 years on, and I choose Brassring just purely because the timeline matches up nicely for the story. But even now we have Brassring engineers and staff that haven't integrated into Connexa or into IBM. They still identify as being Brassring staff. We still have Connexa staff that identify as being Connexa, so not Brassring and not IBM. And we have IBM staff that identify as being IBM staff, or like me, joined IBM into a Lotus group and identify as being quasi-Lotus within that overall umbrella of IBM. So we're split, we're divided. So we're in these kind of nearly product vertical silos where there's barriers in between. There's our way of doing things, there's their way of doing things. And the two don't quite mesh together. The one exception to that is hosting and operations. So that's the team that I'm in. So if we have all these product verticals, hosting and operations is a layer that provides kind of infrastructure for any of those systems to run on, or any of those products to run on. So it's the one layer where everything kind of converges. But then we have that age-old DevOps conundrum. The problem number one, we have a dev silo and an ops silo, and there's a barrier in between. Coupled with that, in the teams, there is a difference of color there. This is what I show up on the screen. Within the product silos, then we have different teams that are set up to do different functions. So we've got dev teams that do development, we've got test teams that do tests. We've got DevOps teams. I'll come back to the buddy years in a moment. But our teams have barriers in between each other within the product verticals, while identifying as a product, that don't necessarily translate into how the other products work in that same function or functional role. Coupled with that, the fact that we've got multiple dev teams in the different products that also don't quite interact. This is our way of doing things, your way of doing things, within a single silo, let alone the many silos that we have, or the many verticals that we have. Layer on top of that, this is the one slide that I wanted my laptop for because it shows up horrendously here. It's a picture of the globe, or was. So layer on top of that, then we've got teams that are spread around the world. Like, we're a big organization. We are worldwide in every aspect within IBM and within our one sliver. It's still a big sliver. But we have dev teams that may have been in a single location for the last 15 years or so, have been isolated, and the only interaction they have really with the rest of, let's say, the community that we have is software requirements from the software that team creates and how different things need to interact with that. So it doesn't lend itself towards a culture of giving, of integrating, of being one community building stuff for the future. So I said I'd come back to the DevOps bunny years. So 5 years ago, DevOps came out, and there was nearly as many definitions of DevOps as there were people talking about it. And one of the things that happened while we had our dev silo and our ops silo, and DevOps was meant to make them kind of merge and come together and collaborate more, people saw, oh, we need a DevOps function. And DevOps isn't really the function, it's the way of working. So while we had the dev silo, the ops silo, now we got a DevOps silo. So the team has been tasked with the function of DevOps, which doesn't really make sense when you consider it as it's the way the team should be working together on the kind of micro scale, or within the organization on the macro scale. And this is where I'll tell you my first failure story, our first failure story. And I don't say this to be kind of airing dirty laundry. This is the situation that we're in, and this is where we're working from. So in 2013, I joined into IBM Connexa as it was. into what had essentially been set up as an experiment project. We were given complete autonomy. We didn't have to interact with the hosting and operations side. We were allowed to run our own infrastructure as code using IBM software. I joined the team about a year after its inception, when the executive director, technical leadership level had directed, we will make this in a DevOps fashion. We will be able to work together as a group of about 30 people. When I joined that team, the team had kind of naturally split into a dev and test team, which was based in Dublin, and a hosting, operations, platform automation team, which was based in Hong Kong. And I joined the Hong Kong team while based in Dublin. Go figure. But so we had the group of about 30 of us acted as one team, despite being called two different teams. There was the dev team, there was the DevOps team, but we acted as one up to a certain point. And I've been struggling to remember what it was that caused kind of a split in how we worked. And I think it was when the Heartbleed bug came out. All of the infrastructure, all of the middleware, everything had to be upgraded as one, with kind of the communication channels, the different ciphers that we needed. Everything had to go up as one, and it was an awkward task to achieve. So we slowed down a little bit on the operation side, on the platform automation side. The dev team sped up, and they realized, oh, we don't need to go as slowly as the other team are, we can go faster. So they locally optimized for going faster. Sorry. So while they were going faster, and we were going slower because of this problem, whatever it was that caused it, they locally optimized, and we were left handling the slack that came from not being able to work as a team anymore. So we had a nice regular cadence of releasing every 2 weeks. So in DevOps terms, we were kind of middling, able to release every 2 weeks. And the dev team shot ahead. We were left behind. So we were still stuck releasing every 2 weeks with the application code that matched what we'd managed to make from the platform side. So what we were releasing every 2 weeks was far less than what we had been releasing every 2 weeks because of that local optimization. So while we had been directed to begin with to do DevOps, to work in that way, the people on the team caused a rift. The people on the team chose to go ahead while leaving the other part of the team behind. So Conway's Law, which you may have seen before, and I'm not going to read it out to you, I'll let you read it yourselves, essentially boils down to the structure of your organization is reflected in the system that organization creates. So when you're a big software house like IBM, that can have massive consequences. And whether it's chicken or egg, so we're a very hierarchical structure. Were we that way because we took in these verticals as acquisitions, or are we that way because the software that has been created is reflected back in the organization? I'm not sure, and we're stuck because of that. And I suppose as we're here, it's important to realize that the structure we're in is valuable and is still considered valuable. We are valuable to our customers, we're valuable to IBM as our kind of benevolent dictator. But it is valuable, it has value as it has been for 15, 20 years, whatever it is, each of the kind of core businesses have been while they have been alive. So what we're trying to add with DevOps, there's people within the organization who want DevOps as a new way of working, and there's the people who don't, who have been doing their job for 20 years, who have seen the value of it, think DevOps is just a buzzword for the last 5 years or so, and don't particularly want to change. So this is the situation that we're in. And I suppose one of the perfect examples of our hierarchy and then kind of the next problem point that we have is our infestation of elks. Oh, no, spoilers. Okay, so back to the dodgy looking world. So ELK, for those of you who don't know, is a central logging system. It's an acronym for a stack that's provided by Elastic to do central logging. So we have 3 separate instances of Elasticsearch as a stack, 2 of which were implemented to, I suppose, nearly out of ignorance of what was happening on the other side. On the bad way, just we didn't know other people were trying to do it. We did it to suit ourselves. We found out afterwards they did it to suit themselves. In hosting and operations then, we had a situation arise where we had different needs from Elasticsearch. Needs that couldn't be met by how it had been created for the other products. So we had to roll our own. Coupled with that, the fact that we use Splunk, which is yet another central logging system. And you can see we have an awful lot of duplication of effort for the same end goal. Duplication of effort, kind of the lack of trust in, can we change your system to suit us as well? And I suppose there's the issue of, no, we own this, we know it works for us now, we don't want to let you change it, and we don't want to change it for you because it's ours. And there's like the land perhaps, I suppose. Okay, so I suppose why do we want DevOps? We want DevOps so that we can deliver value to our customers more quickly and more efficiently. And that's kind of the crux of it. That's why we want to add this to our organization. So you've probably seen a wheel like this before. I took this pic. This is the IBM version of DevOps and the DevOps pillars. And I took this because I presume I was actually allowed to take it. But it boils down to, if you make a business decision, you can code it up, you can deploy it, you can test it, you can run it, you can maintain it, you can gather data, and you can make another business decision. And the central logging falls into that, gathering data and I suppose dashboarding so that you can make those decisions. And the ELK piece falls into that category. The kind of the outer ring of this wheel that we see are nearly the pillars of DevOps, and they pose technical challenges. And the technical challenge is quite easy to solve. If you get a group of any technical people in a room and say, solve central logging, solve configuration management, solve monitoring, solve, I don't know, whatever other aspect you want, they will come up with a solution. It might not be the best, it might not be elegant, but it will work. It will satisfy the needs they are given. But without the culture in place, and culture is the difficult piece to get, like Peter was saying in the last slide, or the last presentation, you can't force the culture. We saw it with the executive director level, you will do DevOps, the people still broke that. So what are we trying to do about it? We have, I suppose we're trying now to do a grassroots approach, to force it to be the people who want to be involved in this DevOps movement to get a critical mass and a critical momentum to be able to keep it going within the organization. And as that group, we're flattening kind of our organization as much as we possibly can in our kind of, I suppose, a little shadow organization beneath that hierarchy. And there's kind of 2 tiers, and the top tier is we're lovingly calling the Council of Elders at the moment. Name subject to change, terms and conditions apply, and I'm only saying this so it doesn't surprise you on the next slide. So if we're completely flat, we're trying to make sure that people have no more than kind of 2 steps to get to anybody in the organization to discuss whatever they want to discuss. But it has to be surfaced, it has to be aired, it has to have a way for other people to know about it. We have to force the communication structures to be in place so people don't have the excuse of not knowing the right people or not knowing who's doing what, where, when, how. So we've split ourselves into the one silo that we can't beat, which is the physical location that we're in. So in Dublin we have, let's see, 30 people as part of this group that represent about 15 different teams. So there's an awful lot of collaboration can happen between those teams that are probably from different products, probably do different functions, but they come together and say these are the needs for central logging, and they can probably solve it. But at the higher level, at the Council of Elders level, we can say, okay, well, we want to look at central logging, who else wants to look at it? And so we've got the people who had invented central logging in whatever way or flavor that they have to sit together and say, okay, well, these are the requirements we had. Can we now solve it for the global case not the local case. Configuration management is the exact same thing. So we've got, and these are the kind of existing big pieces of the problem that we're looking at. So with configuration management, we use Ansible to deploy Puppet, and Puppet goes everywhere. That's what we use as hosting operations. And then depending on the team and what the team needs for installing their middleware, their apps, we install either Chef, so that their Chef code can then execute, or we install Urban Code Deploy, which then installs Chef, which can then execute. So there's no overarching strategy for what we do for configuration management. But we've got the people together to say, you know what, we need to figure out what we're doing here. Are we going to try and converge? Are we not? Where can we start sharing resources between ourselves to satisfy these needs? And our single sign-on piece here is the first, I suppose, big aspect that's come up where the execution hasn't started happening when somebody sticks up their hand to say, I'm going to solve this problem. Does anybody want help? Does anybody want to be involved? Does anybody see the need in their business to fix that as well? So it's the first case where we've got the people together beforehand to plan it out before they start executing, rather than executing and then realizing, oh, we've stepped on each other's toes. And there was another slide here, but we haven't done anything else yet. So it's important, with the collaboration structure in place, we also have to have the agreement that we want to tightly align. We want to have the same vision at the end. We want to have the same plan. We're forcing people to plan together so that the thing can happen and satisfy everybody's needs on a global case, not on a local case. So I'll leave you with the next slide. We're tightly aligning and we're forcing everybody to plan as a group and then execute however you want to execute. But if the plan is together as everybody, with the needs from everybody, then executing it just becomes a matter of which one gets priority over another. If I have another little bit of time, what I expect to happen is, kind of after this, is as we plan together as a group, that group should then become nearly responsible for providing that service to the business. And as a flat organization of structured, we end up with a service-oriented architecture of the organization, and then by kind of Conway's law and that the evolution of that, the systems that we make, the software that we make, ends up following that same service-oriented architecture. If that splits up into microservices or anything later on is immaterial. We've still got that kind of clearer delineation of who is doing what and why they're doing it. Thank you very much.